Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit of the colour work in and around the top of the horse's head here for the colour recipes. Now, this is a very dark bay horse, but he's got quite a lot of lights in there. So there's quite a lot of orangey bits and pinky bits, all kind of merging together, and then you get the darker bits as well. So it's actually quite interesting how you start something like this. So if you look at the photograph, you've got some quite pale oranges in here, and then you've got some more sort of browny colours in there, but the browny colours are really quite pinky. So they've got sort of pink undertones under there, and then you come down and you've got some, well, I'm seeing violety colours in over the top of the browns. So I'm going to just come into here and just bring a little bit of this colour into the top here, so that you can kind of get an idea as to if you're drawing a dark bay horse like this and it's got light areas, then this could be really useful. Now I'm working on Lightfast paper, so it's hot press. Trying to find some colours. So it's a hot press paper, and I'm using Luminance and Polychromos pencils, and so like I say, yeah, I'm just going to do this little bit down here so you can kind of see how I bring in the initial layers and sort of work up to those paler areas really on a you know, on a dark bay horse like this. Okay, so I'm starting off with the burnt ochre 50%. So it's sort of like quite a palish orange. There's actually a 10% as well, which is even lighter, but I'm going with the 50, I think. I don't even think, oh, I've got the lighter one here. Is that brown ochre? No, I've got the brown ochre 50 as well, which is a little bit more sort of yellowy. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in a layer of the Luminance. I'm going to follow the direction of the hair, even though I can't really see it because it's quite a pixelated photograph. And I'm just going to bring in a very light layer. Now, the Lightfast paper is designed for oil-based pencils, and of course the Luminance are wax-based pencils. So actually using the Luminance on the Lightfast paper doesn't give you the best result initially. It's quite grainy and it doesn't sort of sit particularly smoothly, but I'm not bothered about that. You know, it's these are the initial layers, so you know they can do what they like really at the moment, and it's how they're going to react with what you're going to put in over the top. And I do like the Luminance and the Polychromos together. I think they're a really good combination. So I'm just being very, very, very careful with my pencil strokes here. I don't really want any texture in here. I want it to be more of a sort of a smooth lay down of pencil. So I'm just going to come down here and work into, I've got a little bit of this pinky colour that I've already put in down here. That's sort of you know, the jowl area where it all connects, and the head kind of connects onto the neck there. So I'm kind of going backwards and forwards with my pencil strokes just to try and get a nice connection between these areas. But that's a little bit too strong in there, so I'm just going to dab that a little bit out. I obviously got a bit gung-ho last night when I was starting on the neck, so we just dab that out a little bit. The Lightfast paper is really, really nice actually, and it does take well for sort of like erasing and all of that type of stuff. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring the burnt ochre. No, it's not burnt ochre, is it? It's burnt. Yes, it is. This burnt ochre. Burnt sienna is a more pinky colour. So I'm just going to bring the burnt ochre 10% a little bit more down. This is all the main area here, so I'll put that in afterwards, but I just want to bring this very, very light layer of colour in. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Light Flesh 5%. Again, it's another Luminance. This is a really, really, I think this must be my most used colour. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's pink where you need pink, it's brown where you need brown. It's a really, really fabulous, fabulous colour. So I'm just going to bring this in again very, very lightly in over the top of that burnt ochre layer that we've just put in. So I'm not using sharp pencils on this either. I find with the Lightfast paper, I don't need to use sharp pencils like you would on like a Fabriano or something like that. And I'm just going to bring some like tonal changes just in this little bit of the neck here. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of those tonal changes in, just building it up so we get an idea of you know, the change in the coat colour, but also there's a little bit of shadow in there too. And the colours are they're pretty close in hue. So, you know, you don't get that sort of big step from orange to pink. It's quite a nice, gentle, subtle step. And then I'm just going to come down here. And this is going to be the pinky colour that you're seeing underneath the brown. You know, for that sort of bay colour. Okay, so I'm going to bring that a little bit further down, and then we've got some definite pinks that are coming in through there. So I've got a couple of, well, 3 pinks. I've got my Granite Rose, which is always a good option. I've got my Burnt Sienna 10%, which is like a, it's like a bluey pink, is that one? And then I've also got my Cinnamon. And I think with this one, I'm going to go with the Cinnamon, just because it's that sort of, it's going to go in with the browns. So I'm just going to bring a light layer, very, very light pressure. I'm just going to start to bring that in as well. So it's just like a bit of a mishmash of colours. You're just sort of plonking them in, you know, where you're seeing colour. So a little bit of pink there. I might go in with the Granite Rose, and we'll just put a little bit of pink of that in here, which might just lighten it a little bit. Just sort of plonk that in. Maybe come up this way a little bit and just lighten this up as well. Onto that ear area there. This is still very quite orange, so I'm going to come back again with my Burnt Ochre 50. I'm just going to bring a little bit more colour into there. And I'm going to use my where are you? There we go, Burnt Ochre. So the Polychromos Burnt Ochre, I'm now just going to start to bring into here a little bit more, and it's going to go down really quite nice and smoothly over the top of those Luminance pencils. So where you were starting to get grain coming through the Luminance ones, when you start to put the Polychromos down over the top, that disappears. You know, and the Luminance just gives a really nice base actually. Even though it doesn't go down particularly smoothly, it gives a nice base for the other pencils to kind of go up on the top. So I'm just making this a little bit darker into here. I'm just coming down, still really, really light pressure. And there's no real fur lines in here either, it's more just blocks of colour. And then the tones are going to then sort of differentiate and give you the feeling of fur, because the photo hasn't really got any texture or anything in it, you know, any detail in it. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my Dark Flesh 5%, and I'm just going to, again, just come into here. Start to bring in that darker colour in there again. It's quite a good example actually of, you know, how you'd use all sorts of different, so I've got all of these colours going on at the minute, you know, just in this tiny area as we build, you know, the top of the neck here. Now, if you're the sort of person who prefers to sort of build, you know, over an entire area rather than just one patch, then you'd work in exactly the same way. You'd just kind of bring your orange down, you'd kind of plot everything out in the neck area, then you'd go back again and you'd start to build it up. My preference is to work in sections. It's just how my brain works. I find it much easier to work in sections because I can see the realism and the animal coming to life, you know, quite quickly, rather than sort of building layer after layer after layer after layer and then it's starting to come together at the end. So right, I'm going to bring a couple of pencils in now, which we'll see how they work, but I've got the Walnut Brown, Polychromos Walnut Brown, and I've got the Luminance Sepia 50. Now they're both sort of browny colours, but the Sepia 50 is more of a purpley brown. So what happens when you bring a brown in over the top of the oranges, it can go a little bit, especially the walnut brown, it can go a little bit the other way. Yeah, so it can go a bit the other way, and it can end up looking a little bit too, I don't know, just not quite right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a play and we're going to see what happens. So I want to bring a little bit of brown up into this area up here, down along the bottom of the mane. Normally I put a little bit of the mane in as well, but that's boring, is that bit. It's just black. We don't need to play around with that. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of this walnut brown in on the top here. Again, very, very light layers. The Lightfast paper takes a lot of layers. You know, and you can press hard if you want, but at this stage it's better if you kind of keep it light, and then you can sort of see what the colours are doing. So I'm just going to bring that into there. So that's not looking so bad actually. I want to bring a little bit of red in there as well, I think. And you might be thinking, oh my lord, all of these colours for such a tiny bit, but actually, you know, it's not a massive portrait, and bringing all those colours in really, really does help. It makes a massive difference. You know, and yeah, I like to use colour. So I'm just going to come in up here, and obviously we'll add more black and everything when we come to do the mane, but it's a little bit darker under the mane. That walnut brown is working quite nicely actually. So I'm just going to bring a little bit more of that down into here, over the top of the pinks. So we don't have to cover the pinky colour altogether, that dark flesh 5%, we can leave bits of that showing through. And that's what gives you that nice sort of feeling that it's, you know, it's fur. You've got all of those different colours shining through. And then I'm just going to come down into here a little bit more. And I'm going to bring in a little bit more pink. I'm going to use the Granite Rose because it's a bit of a lighter colour. It's also the Pablo, which means that it will be quite velvety. And I can kind of blend what I've just put in there. So I can sort of come in over the top of the browny colours, and we can sort of get it all to smudge together and blend in together. And then we start to get this really nice feeling of, you know, colour and tone and light and everything sort of happening on the horse's neck there. Again, I'm going to come back in again a little bit with my burnt ochre. And this is why I find it much easier to work on an area all in one go. You know, because I can kind of, I see the colours as they're happening, but I see the colours all in layers, kind of all lined up in my head, and they're all going, me next, me next. You know, and if I was, when I'm working overall on a piece, I just find it much, much harder to sort of work out what the colours and everything are going to be. So I'm going to introduce the Sepia 50 to get some of that more purpley tone into here. I'm going to bring this in over the top of the walnut brown. Probably should sharpen it, but with me being particularly lazy, I yeah, can't be bothered. It's not the best thing, is it, to be teaching? Far too lazy to be sharpening my pencils. And I'm just going to come down here a little bit as well, and that purpley colour is just going to interact with the orange that we've put down, and if it gets a little bit too orange, then the purpley colour is just going to sort of mute it a little bit. It's the relationship that you're going to get between the orange and the purpley colour of the sepia is a good one. It's still brown, but it's got a little bit more purple in there than the walnut browns. You can, you know, you could actually get away with not using the walnut brown at all and just using the Sepia 50. You know, but again, that's up to you as to what you want to do. Right, so next I'm going to use my Caput Mortem Violet. So when I'm looking at the neck area here, I'm seeing sort of like some quite nice reddy bits in there as well. Again, you've got to be quite careful that you don't go in too strong and get some really, really strong, warm, reddy colours in there. If that happens, and you're like, oh, blimey, I've gone a little bit too red there, you know, what you can do is you can actually counteract it by putting some pink in over the top, just to pull it back a little bit. Or if you want to keep the depth and you want to keep it sort of, you know, relatively dark and rich, you can add blue to it. You can add something like a dark indigo in there, which will keep the richness and the depth, but you'll lose that that strong reddy colour, and you'll pull more of a magenta-y, purpley colour in by adding that blue. So I'll show you in a second. Just bring a little bit, but then you've got to be careful that you're not putting blue in over the orange, or you'll get green and blah blah blah. So, you know, knowing what colours you're going to get, I think always remember orange and yellow. If you add blue, it's going to go green. You know, it's just how it is. And if you can just, you know, remember that and not add blue in over the top of your oranges, then you'll be fine. Okay, so let's pull that in there, and then I'm just going to use the dark indigo. So this is dark indigo. I'm going to go a little bit darker up here on the bottom of the main. Again, I'm just going to bring it in over the top. So the dark indigo works brilliantly with Caput Morton Violet and Walnut Brown. So if you've got a really dark bay and it's quite a rich chocolatey colour, those three colours are going to be awesome for getting your that richness in. You know, the blue just sort of makes it just much more rich. So we're not kind of scribbling and putting all of the blue in there. We're just kind of bringing a little bit of a glaze in over the top, so that in places we've got slightly darker tone. Just again, just bring that in there a little bit. So now we're starting to get this really nice dark colour in the top here, but we're still keeping this sort of orangey glow in here as well. And then we can start to come down here. I'm going to use the Dark Flesh 5% again. Start to bring that in as we come in down here. Again, you can kind of connect it with what you've been doing. If you find it difficult to remember what colours you've been using, then, you know, just jot them down. You know, have like a strip of paper next to you here, and just jot down the you know, the layers that you've been doing, and then at least when you kind of come, if you do work like I do, then at least you can just kind of come down. You go, oh right, yes, this is what I did there. I put this down first, then I put this, and then I put this. I don't tend to do that. I have in the past. But again, I'm just a bit too lazy really, and I just sort of, you know, I tend to be able to remember the colours that I've been using, and if I don't, I just make them all back up again. So I've got the burnt ochre 50% again. I'm just going to bring a little bit of that orange again down into here, onto the neck area, and I'm just going to keep going all the way down. A little bit more of the neck in here a bit. And again, you know, if you're working like this and you're sort of bringing one section into another and you're kind of connecting it, you need to sort of bring them together. You need to draw into them. So don't ever draw a straight line and then start from the straight line, because then you are going to get you know, steps of colour. Then everything needs to connect and flow nicely. So back in with the Dark Flesh 10. And again, we're just going to come in here now. I've got a little bit of a mark on the paper there, which I'm just going to ignore for now. And I'm just going to work down here. So you can see my pencil strokes are sort of up and down, quite sketchy. There's no particular hair direction in this because the photo is, you know, is not the best quality. So actually that's fine. We can just go with smooth. Smooth works really well for me because we can then just concentrate on tones and colour then, you know, and the tones will be what give us the details. So I'm just going to bring a little bit more up into there. Okay, and then I'm going to go in now. I'm going to use the Caput Morton Violet a little bit more in over that because there's a little bit more reddy colour in here. So I'm going to go in with my second layer with the Caput Morton Violet. Again, very, very, very light layers, very light pressure, just sort of glazing almost in there, just to sort of try and get that sort of ready, soft glow. And again, I'm kind of going in all sorts of different directions, which, you know, I probably shouldn't be, but what I'm wanting is more of an even texture in the hair rather than it following any hair direction. And you can see when I'm putting it in here, it's still a little bit grainy, so we can still see the tooth of the paper coming through. And as we build the layers, then we can start to sort of push that tooth into the paper a little bit more. I'm going to use the burnt ochre and just come in on the top here. Just coming in and down. This is actually a really, really lovely colour to be drawing these bay horses with these sort of pinky and orangey highlighty bits. You know, you think of a dark bay as being, you know, very, very dark brown, almost black in places, and actually a lot of these bay horses have got all of this beautiful colour that sort of, you know, runs through their coat. So again, I'm going to go granite rose. I'm going to bring my granite rose in over the top of the orange a little bit into these darker areas. A pink is always going to be working well with your oranges, and it's always going to be working well with your reds and your browns. So, you know, if you need to bring like a little bit of a highlight in and you're not sure what to bring in, and the horse is brown or, you know, chestnut or whatever, use pink. You know, it is such a great colour for bringing highlights in, and it doesn't necessarily have to look pink. You know, you can see here where I've used the pink, it doesn't look pink, it's kind of just blended in really, really nicely with the colours that we've already got there. I'm not burnishing, I'm just running my pencil very, very lightly in over the top of the other layers, and that's working quite nicely in there. So what am I going to use now? I feel I need to sort of draw a little bit up on the top bit there. I'm just going to use my black just to bring in a little bit of this mane in here, just because it's annoying me that it's not there. So I'm just going to very, very gently just pull in a little bit of detail into, or a little bit of a rough sketch of the main area in there. So I'm going up, I'm using my pencil up and under to try and capture that sort of feeling that we've got layers of the hair kind of coming in there, and obviously I'll work on that afterwards. So it's more of a visual thing for me, really, just to sort of show that there's something there and I'm working up underneath it. I think that's quite important. If you're a little bit like me and you need that sort of visual stimulation, if you like, and you need to know what it is that you're drawing, then you know, sort of adding in a rough sketch like this, it can just really, really help you understand how this then works, you know, because we've now got a little bit of context in there. You know, I'm much better when I've sort of, you know, even though I work in sections, I am much better bringing in just a little bit of something, and you can see how quickly you can get you know, some sort of a semblance of a mane in there. And bringing those marks in from the bottom, it does give it the feeling that it's kind of layered, you know, top and bottom, and it gives it that nice sort of puffy feel, you know, where the mane's sort of standing up over the neck. Now this actually comes up a little bit, and we've got a little bit of something going on there as it comes down. Right, okay, and then we can really see what's going on under here now. So I can just bring a little bit more of that dark in along the bottom of the mane there. So again, I'm just using sort of little wiggly lines, and what I'm wanting to show is more of a shadow, and that it's going underneath something. So it's really important to capture the sort of the planes of the, you know, the structure of the horse. So the neck area here, it kind of comes up and it curves around like that. It comes up and curves around, and then it goes up, and then this bit here will sort of stop on the crest, and then the mane kind of it sort of grows from the other side of the crest and curls around, and that's what we've got to try and show, that the black we're putting in here is actually shadow, and the mane is sitting in over the top, rather than just drawing a big black line down, you know, and hoping that sort of looks like a shadow, because it won't. Okay, so just coming sort of down to here, and then we've got an idea of how this is working now, and that's starting to look a little bit better, you know, and then we can kind of bring a little bit more of, say, the Caput Mortuum Violet into here. We can bring a little bit of that into the shadow in here. And you can see how I'm layering these colours. You know, they're all coming together. The Polychromos are lovely because they're much more, well, they're less opaque than the sort of thicker, creamier pencils like the Luminance and the Lightfast, which means that you can sort of see through them a little bit better. And that's great for this sort of work, because you want to be able to see those orangey colours coming through. You don't want the Caput Mortuum just to completely obliterate those colours. So I'm going to go back in again with the burnt ochre and just kind of come in again over the top of the Caput Mortuum Violet in there, so that we're kind of combining those reddy tones with the more orange ones, and we're getting a little bit of more of a burnt colour in there, like a burnt orange. Okay, and then I'm going to use the pink again, just to sort of blend in there as well, and then just come down into here. Then I'm going to use my Sepia 50%, and I'm going to start to come down here a little bit. So you can see I'm doing these sort of soft pencil strokes as I'm coming down the neck. And as I get to here, I'm going to start to bring in a little bit of the burnt sienna. So the burnt sienna is just that little bit richer. It's that reddy brown that's you know, is nice and rich. So just bring some of that into there. Again, sort of just plotting the colours in, really. And then I'm going to come down to this area here where we're starting to get, I'm going to use the Sepia 50 again. Now we've got quite a lot of pink in here, and then we've got this area that sort of comes up to here. Up to here actually. And we can then start to sort of darken into here. Let's put a little bit in over there so it keeps that sort of connection in there. You know, we don't want it to look like spots, but you know, there are definite areas in there that are just that little bit lighter than others. We'll just come down here. And then I'm going to use my lilac violet. Where are you? There you are. So I've got my ultramarine violet here, and I'm going to use that for my highlights. So I'm just going to bring that into here. And I'm going to bring that a little bit into this area here. Again, just as an initial layer. You know, it's going to look a little bit strange to begin with, but you know, once you start to kind of put all of your colours and everything in, it'll start to look a lot more like what you think it's going to look like. And then let's go back in with the Caput Mortuum Violet. Let's get a little bit more reddy in here. Again, lightly glazing in over the colour. So you've got quite a few layers going on here now. You know, you've got quite a lot of colour in there, and they're all building up to create this really nice, rich, light area on this, you know, this quite dark bay horse. Again, let's put a little bit more. This is sort of here. into there. And then I'm going to bring a little bit of the dark indigo in there as well. Again, just, you know, just be careful you don't go mad in your orangey areas, but where you've got reds, you can bring in that dark indigo and it's going to really help to create that nice sort of dark tone. You know, if you were just going to stick with your reds, you'd have to sort of think, oh God, what do I do? Do I bring black in? How am I going to get it to darken? But actually just adding that little tiny bit of dark blue in there, the dark indigo, it gives it just what it needs to sort of darken that up, you know, and start to come down and start to make a little bit more sense of the structure of this area of the horse. So again, I'm just going to come into here. We can see that there's sort of like some muscle in there. Coming down. Again, I'm sort of being very scribbly about where I'm putting my my pencil marks. I'm just sort of plotting the colour, and then we can start to really build, you know, the form of the horse and start to smooth everything out and, you know, layer up. Okay, so I'm just going to come back into here just a little bit. Again, it's very, very light layers in here. So I probably need to start to increase my pressure a little bit, but you don't want to do that too soon, because then, you know, you still want to keep that nice subtlety of the colour, and actually it's working quite nicely without me pressing too hard. Sort of, this is a bit, got a bit of line work going on in here. I just want to sort of blend this out a little bit better. And you can see that dark red, the Caput Mortem Violet, coming in over the top of the more orangey colours, and it works, does work really, really well. Just gives that nice sort of burnt orange colour. Again, we can just go a little bit darker up here. And there's a couple of lines in there that I think they're graphite lines that have sort of made a bit of a groove in the paper, and just increased my pressure a little bit just to fill those in. And then I'm just going to come into these black areas here, which are running under the mane, and just bring a little bit of that red in there as well, that Caput Mortem Violet in there too, so that we start to get a nice feeling of continuity, I guess. So just bring a little bit more red into there. So where I've put the walnut brown, actually I don't like the walnut brown where I've put it, and I've kind of gone over the top of that with the more reddy colours, and I prefer the more reddy colours. I think they work better. You know, it's giving us a much richer feel. Right, so let's bring a little bit more pink down into here. A little bit more pink in there. And we'll just bring a little bit more pink into there as well. Okay, so that's all looking, you know, quite nice. We'll probably bring a little bit of like the dark flesh 50 into there as well, so we can get a little bit more of a feel of the texture that's going on in there, and a little bit more of the structure, so we can add some of this, which is sort of darker, but it's a better pinky colour to use than, say, the cinnamon. Okay, so sit back every now and again, just double check what it is that you're doing. Let's bring a little bit more of the, not the burnt sienna, the Caput Mortem Violet. Bring a little bit more of that in there. Bring a little bit of that into here. And we're going to need a little bit of blue in there as well. And then we've got those violet-y colours that are coming through as well. And this is sort of slightly darker, so I'm going to bring my dark indigo into here. Just going to bring a little bit. So again, you've got to be really careful. So I want to put some sort of like lighter bits in here, in over the top, So you've got to be careful about what you're going to use, because what will happen when it hits the blue, what will happen when it hits the red. If you're using the Lightfast Nightshade, which is that really, really dark purple, if you put white over the top of it, you are going to get the most hideous pale pinky purple. So you have to kind of know what it is that you're going to get, what to expect when you kind of bring in one colour over the top of the other. You know, so for me, bringing violet in over the top of the red and the blue, I know that I'm going to get just a nice sort of paler colour, really. It's almost like a bit of shine rather than it being colour. So I can just bring that in there, and I know what's going to happen when it meets the red and it meets the blue. So it's going to interact nicely with the red and kind of just sort of work with it. And with the blue, it's just going to sort of lighten it up a little bit, but not make it a pale blue. So we can start to see how the lighting and everything starts to work in there. And I'm just going to bring a little bit more into there as well. Like I say, the Luminance, when you first put it down on the Lightfast paper, it's not the best. You're not going to get the most beautiful soft lines, but I still prefer them to the Lightfast. Sorry, Derwent. I suppose it's inevitable, isn't it? So it's, you know, I'm half Swiss, so Caran d'Ache. I do like the Derwent. Well, I suppose I'm using Caran d'Ache and I'm using the Derwent paper, so we're all right. We're okay. Right, so just this little bit of the dark blue in there again, and then I'm just going to bring a little bit more of this in. Now, if I did want to bring some white in, I'd probably use my Chinese white, my Derwent Drawing Chinese white, and I can just bring a little bit of that in. It's not going to give you bright white, but what it is going to do is it's going to lighten it up a little bit for you. And the Derwent Lightfast paper actually does give you a little bit more option of getting light over dark. Not like pastel matte, but it's certainly better than a lot of papers. So we can just kind of work onto there and just lighten little bits up if we need to. You know, if we're thinking, oh gosh, I could have done with a little bit more light there, I can then just go pop it in with something like the Chinese white, and what it will do is it will just lighten what's underneath it. You know, so you can start to get that nice feeling in there. Right, let's now look at I'm going to use the Sepia 50 again. Now, just because you put some highlights down doesn't mean to say you can't then go back over the top of them and sort of work into that area. You know, a lot of times I'll get to a point where it might look like it could be finished, and I'll just sort of go over the top and start again. You know, and that's purely because I just want to build a little bit more depth. Just pulling that into there. Okay, and then a bit more of this on this side as well. And then we carry on working down the neck. Okay, so I'm just going to pull a little bit of the caput mortuum into here. A little bit more up onto the top of the crest up here. Coming into that bit of violet there as well. I'm just going to use a little bit of the pink. Again, nice and gently. Just lighten that little bit up there as well. So the pink is really good for just sort of lightening things up. And yeah, and then you just keep going down the neck. Just coming into this area here and just adding a little bit more pink just to lighten it up a little bit more. And then this bit down here is going to get really dark. So we'll just bring a little bit more in down here. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I know it's only a tiny area, but hopefully that is going to give you just a little bit of an idea as to how, you know, you're going to be able to sort of mix some of these colours, you know, that go into these darker horses, but that have got the, you know, the lighter areas in there. Just bring a little bit of that that Chinese white into there as well, and then we can just layer in over here so we don't. We've got that nice light bit coming down there next to the ear. Yeah, and then I'm just going to come and work into here. We need to get a little bit more light into here, and then we can start to really darken it. But this area here, you know, if you're kind of bringing in that sort of lovely orangey reddy, almost like a dappley colour as well, you know, good colours to use are what have we got? Yeah, so the ones I've kind of used the most are these ones. So, you know, you get a little bit of a base down with your sort of palish orange. You bring a little bit more of your burnt ochre in there. That's burnt ochre 50. Using your violets is a really good idea to kind of bring out some little highlights and maybe even some sort of shadowy areas too. And then you can, the dark flesh 5% is awesome for bay horses and anything that's sort of remotely gingery to bring in that pinky extra tone. And you've got the dark, the Sepia 50, which again is like a brownie colour, but it's got a bit more purple to it. You've got your Caput Mortem Violet, which is just, you know, fail-safe colour for using for bay horses. And then you've got your dark indigo to go in over the top of it so that you can kind of tone down some of the reds. And then burnt sienna just because, and your granite rose, which is another really, really good one for sort of bringing colours together. So you've got tons and tons of colours in there, you know, just for this tiny little bit. But you then kind of bring those colours down and in and round, and you know, and work them into your piece. Yeah, good.